Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would talk about this boxing news that I thought was very particularly interesting, that I also have not seen a lot of people really talk about as of yet, whether it be true or whether it be fake. But it does appear that there is a little bit of reality to it, or at least that, they're trying to somewhat set this up. Whether it's gonna happen or not, I'm not really sure. But I believe that this news was announced either yesterday or possibly the day before. But this is very, very recent news. Apparently, there is allegedly going to be a card, especially in that of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, on December 23rd. Anthony Joshua will be on the card, Deontay Wilder will be on the card, and they will have respective fights. I believe Anthony Joshua is going to have a fight against Aldo Valin, and Deontay Wilder is going to have a fight against Joseph Parker. That also being said, apparently Dimitri Bivol, who of course is in my top 10 pound for pound fighters, he will also apparently be on the card, at least according to this, defending, I believe, against, some sort of opponent. Lyndon Johnson, I believe his name is. If I'm wrong about that name, then, maybe I'm getting it mixed up. But anyways, we're going to read this article real quick, and I'm going to kind of talk about, in my view, if are these good fights? Is it a good setup fight potentially? Do I like the card? Yada yada yada. So let's just get straight into it. But anyways, the article right there is written by Doric San, and it says while boxing fans have been clamoring for a fight between heavyweight superstars Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, they will have to wait a while longer. ESPN's Mike Coppinger reported on Tuesday that both Joshua and Wilder have been booked for a card on December 23rd in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, but they will be in separate fights. Joshua will be taking on Aldo Valin, while Wilder will face that of Joseph Parker. Now, Mike Coppinger, of course, has reported news in the past to where it seemed relatively official, and then, of course, certain fights, they either didn't end up happening or, whatever. Of course, there was that of the AJ versus Tyson Fury fight, where allegedly they were in deals, and then I'm not quite sure if it never happened or if the fight just fell apart because Deontay Wilder activated his rematch clause. I'm not really sure. But, Mike Coppinger, of course, with certain news that he has is a little bit on and off. So, of course, we don't know 100% if this is true or not. And I will say this, if Deontay Wilder is going to have a fight against Joseph Parker, who really did not fight that long ago, by the way. He just fought, I believe, on that of the, what was it? I think the Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury fight card. So that would be a pretty pretty short break in my view. So I'm not quite sure 100% if I'm really believing this. I would like it, for it to be true, but that just ended up happening in October. And it's hard for me to believe that Joseph Parker, especially against a threat like Deontay Wilder, that a fight like that would happen and Joseph Parker just wouldn't have an elite training camp or wouldn't have a good training camp whatsoever. I'm not quite sure about that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll still have about 2 months. I'm not really sure, but that might overtrain him a little bit, and I'm not quite sure if I'm believing that. But we'll see about that. And as for Otto Valin, he hasn't fought in a very long time, so the AJ versus Otto Valin fight, that's a little bit more believable. And let me tell you what, that is a very good opponent for AJ Anthony Joshua if AJ plans to fight Deontay Wilder within the next upcoming fights. It still appears that AJ is still lacking a little bit of confidence, especially ever since his losses to that of Deontay Wilder. Or excuse me, not to Deontay Wilder, but to that of Alexander Usyk. But, he is going to have a high degree of confidence against Deontay Wilder. He is going to have to try and win the fight. Because if he just stands by and tries to outbox Deontay Wilder the whole entire time, Deontay Wilder is eventually going to catch him, in my opinion. And eventually he will knock AJ out if AJ does not try to press the action a little bit, and if he doesn't show Wilder that he can hurt him. Because there's no offense against AJ, but in that last fight, I believe it was a former opponent of Dillian White. I don't even remember the dude's name. AJ looked like a complete shell of himself. So once again, I'm gonna be very interested to see, how AJ looks in an Otto Valin fight, because Otto Valin, he's not necessarily a top 10 guy, but he's a very, very strong top 15 guy. And I have no doubt about it that he could beat some of the top 10 guys in the heavyweight division. He's not bad. He's a very tough customer. He's a relatively intelligent boxer. And I did see him give a lot of problems to that of Tyson Fury. Now that being said, I think that he also underestimated, Aldo a little bit. Like I said, Tyson Fury is a guy that fights to the level of his competition. Francis Ngannou is a great example, Aldo and then a certain amount of other boxers. But it is what it is. Anyways, but it says right here, Michael Benson, Deontay Wilder has now arrived in London ahead of tomorrow's press conference to announce his fight versus Joseph Parker on the same show as Anthony Joshua versus Aldo Valin, December 23rd in Saudi Arabia. Like I said, we'll see if that's true. Dan Rafael added that Dimitri Bivol will have a title bout on this card with Richie Rivera as his opponent. Now, apparently, Richie was not finalized, and it says there, so I believe, not Lyndon Johnson, but Lyndon Arthur, I believe is his name. My bad. Lyndon Arthur, I believe is the fighter that he's going to be fighting, which is a fighter that won and lost against Anthony Yard not too long ago. Not the worst opponent, not the best opponent, but it is what it is. But anyways, it says Rafael first reported November 11th that the fight featuring Joshua and Wilder were in the works. The previously planned undisputed heavyweight championship fight between Fury and Usyk for December 23rd had to be pushed back following Fury's harrowing 10-round exhibition fight. Well, it actually was not an exhibition fight. It was a professional boxing fight, and it was a professional boxing fight where Fury looked very sloppy and did not have the same level of conditioning and damn near lost against an MMA fighter. So Fury definitely is going to have a better showing against that Alexander Usyk. Once again, I have certain people that tell me that, Fury, he got old overnight or he's washed up. I just think that Fury, once again, is a fighter that fights to the level of his competition. You have a ton of fighters that just do that. Tyson Fury is one of those guys. It is what it is. He's not a guy that, goes in there and, I'm not going to say that, he always underestimates, certain opponents, but there's certain opponents that I think you definitely have to gain a little bit of his respect, just in my personal view, especially some of these bigger guys, but, it is what it is. Anyways, but his exhibition fight against Francis Ngannou last month, while Fury won a split decision, he was knocked down during the fight and visibly battered afterward. I agree. So it is best that fight happens in February or somewhere around there. That'll be, it's going to be a great fight, when it does happen, or at least a great matchup. And of course, whoever wins that fight is probably going to be remembered as the greatest heavyweight of this era. And in my view, if Fury does win that fight, he will have a debate as the greatest heavyweight of all time. He will have a debate there. Doesn't mean that it's undisputed. Doesn't mean that Fury is for sure number one. But in my view, you can't be undisputed, once in your career against Alexander Usyk, beat Vladimir Klitschko, beat Deontay Wilder. And then if I had to guess, he's more than likely going to try to get the AJ fight, or a couple of other big fights. You can't have all those names on your record. But even if he just beats Usyk and leaves it at that, you can't have at least those three big names on your record. Be undefeated, be undisputed, have all these accomplishments, and not be debatably the greatest heavyweight of all time. I'm sorry, I just can't agree with that. It is what it is. But anyways, despite Joshua 26-3, 23 KOs, and Wilder 43 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 42 KOs. Really should be 3 losses, but that's neither here nor there. Being the 2 most popular heavyweights outside of Fury and Usyk, Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn isn't interested in making a fight between the two of them until next year. I don't want to go on about the Wilder fight, but I think it's best that we make it in March or April, Hearn said when speaking of Boxing Social earlier this month. Boxing analyst Carl Frost recently spoke to TalkSport Boxing and expressed his disappointment in Hearn and not putting it together for a marquee matchup between Joshua and Wilder. I put the blame totally on Eddie Hearn or AJ because if AJ wanted to fight Wilder and he thought he was confident enough to make a statement and fight somebody like Wilder, then what a statement that would be. It's a mega fight, Frost said. Now that it's been pulled, the fans have had the rug pulled from under their feet. And let me tell you what, because this has been a narrative that's been going on pretty much for the past 10 years about, who's been ducking who and, is AJ avoiding Deontay Wilder? Is Wilder avoiding him? A lot of narratives, of course, for the very long time was that AJ was avoiding Deontay Wilder. I never really completely bought into it. And the reason why I never completely bought into it is because AJ was always the guy, that was fighting the bigger fights over that of Deontay Wilder. And I'm not saying that there was not certain times where AJ I'm not saying that he was always super excited to fight Wilder. But there was times where Wilder was coming across as a bit suspicious as well. Like all of a sudden his visa gets canceled out of nowhere, when it comes to Britain. And he's been able to go to Britain a multitude of times. I just thought that was very odd. He could have signed a fight with DAZN. He declined. And people will say, oh, well, that was our fault, blah, blah, blah. All sorts of bullshit. Listen, at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder stated that the reason why he didn't want to do that is because he wanted to be his own boss. That was him. Okay, so these LDBC and new media guys, they can blame it all on AJ all they want to and all sorts of bullshit. Deontay Wilder decided not to sign that contract. Okay? He decided not to sign that contract. And the LDBC and new media still make excuses for that. But it is what it is. But anyways, and of course we all know that Wilder said they didn't want to go to Britain to fight Joshua. So at the end of the day, both have had, kind of their hang-ups about fighting each other. I've never been one to just completely blame AJ. I think Wilder, of course, had his faults in the negotiations as well. But let's talk for another time. Anyways, it said, despite the disappointment, Wallin and Parker are no slouches. Wallin, I agree. 26-1, 14 KOs. Previously gave Fury a tough fight and cut him when they faced each other in 2019. Parker, 33-3-23 KOs, is a former WBO champion. If both Joshua and Wilder are victorious in their respective matchups on December 23rd, it could open the door for them to face each other in early 2024. But anyways, I just thought that I would read that. Very particularly interesting news. Once again, do I believe that the fights are going to happen? I'm not quite so sure about that. We'll see. Like I said, especially because Joseph Parker recently fought so recently. Wilder and AJ, it's been kind of a while since they fought. I think they both fought earlier this year. So, I mean, it's possible. I would really, 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 really love this fight to happen. Because other than Haney versus Regis Prograis, I don't know of any other colossal or mega cards that are happening, in that of December or for the rest of the year, other than that of Andrade and Benavidez. But in the month of December especially, this would definitely be a great card, no doubt about it. I would personally love to see it. Once again, I'm going to say that, just in my personal view, that there's about a 30% chance of this happening. I think that Wilder will reveal his next fight very soon, because Wilder apparently tweeted something as of recent, about him revealing his next fight. And if he is actually in Britain, then who knows? This could be a little bit more true than, what I'm thinking. But it's just so hard to determine with that in boxing news. There's always a lot of people that claim that, oh, this fight's going to happen and this is going to happen, but you just never truly know. You just never truly know. So once again, I'm going to give this about a 30% chance of happening. I'm not really completely sold on it yet. But, it's certainly a higher probability or a higher percentage than what I would have given other news that I heard about. So once again, very interesting. I would love to see this card. Of course, always a joy to see AJ Wilder, in general. Dimitri Bivol as well. If they were all on the same card, it certainly would be one of the biggest cards in years. No doubt about it. Especially, with the big, fights that we've had this year. But anyways, very interesting fights. I would love to see AJ versus Wallin and Wilder versus Joseph Parker, just to see how they can handle their respective opponents. It would be very interesting. And both of those guys are very good warm-ups. They're both very experienced guys. Two fighters that, one that's a former champion and one in Otto Wallin that sparred a certain amount of the champions, I believe. So, definitely a great fight for both of them. At least a great warm-up fight. And then if they're on the same card, possibly they can make that fight next. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. I just thought that I would talk about that. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.